Hi Yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach and welcome back to my crochet channel. Now today I'm going to show you how to make these fun American flag mug rugs or coasters, whatever you want to call them. They're super fun and super easy. The perfect size for a mug, a cup, a glass, a can. They measure about 6 inches long and about 4 inches wide. So they're a really nice size, and they resemble, of course, our American flag. You can make them out of cotton or acrylic, depending on what you're going to use them for. I'm just going to use these more of a decoration and to protect the surfaces of my table. But if you're worried about using them with a glass of cold tea that's going to sweat, be sure and make them out of cotton. But it's a great way to use up some of your leftover yarns because even though I've made them to resemble an American flag, you can make these in any colors that you want to. It's a super easy pattern because it's all stitched in single crochets and they whip up super quick as well. Now you can find the complete pattern with pictures. As always, I'll put that pattern link down in the notes underneath this video. And so to make our American flag mug rug, you're going to of course need some yarn. We're going to be using medium weight number 4 yarns today. Now you can use acrylic or cotton like I mentioned earlier in the video. Just make sure that it's a medium weight number 4. You're going to need less than half an ounce of a royal blue, a red, a white, and then a gold for your trim. We're going to be stitching today with our H hook, which is a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle for weaving in ends and of course adding that cute star. And then also you'll need a pair of scissors. Oh, and don't forget, you need a mug. So we're going to begin with our red yarn. We're going to make a slip knot and then we're going to loosely chain 14 chains. It's important that you stitch just a little bit loose on your beginning chain or the end of your mug rug will be a little bit puckered up. So we're going to loosely chain 14 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So I have 14 chains. We're going to stitch a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. There's the first one, there's the second. So we'll go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both loops. And now we're just going to stitch one single crochet in each of those remaining chains across. I started in the second chain from the hook and stitched a single crochet and then in each of the chains across. So I have 13 single crochets. I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. And now for row 2, we're going to begin in the first single crochet because our chain 1 does not count as a stitch, and then we'll stitch 1 single crochet in each of those 13 single crochets. And for the remainder of the project, every row will have 13 single crochets, even though we'll be changing colors. Of course, until we do the trim. One single crochet in each of the single crochets across. I've stitched those 13 single crochets, but I'm not going to chain 1. I'm going to bring in my white, snug that down, and then chain 1. Now, I'm not going to cut my yarn because we're going to be switching red and white for a few rows. So I'm going to turn my work. I'm going to leave that red yarn attached. We'll go right in that first single crochet And again, stitch 1 single crochet in each of the single crochets across. One single crochet in each of those single crochets across. So we've stitched 1 single crochet in each single crochet across with our white yarn. We're going to chain 1 and turn, and that's because we're going to do another row of white yarn of single crochets. And so again, we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in each of those single crochets across. I told you this was a super simple pattern. I would say it's even a beginner pattern because it's all stitched in rows of single crochet. So now we have 2 rows of red and 2 rows of white in rows of single crochet. So now we're going to switch back to our red yarn. So we'll bring up our red, join that in. Make sure you don't pull that string too tightly on the side. We'll snug it down and chain 1. And then we'll just make sure everything's snug down and not pulling. We'll turn our work, and again we'll stitch 2 rows of single crochet, and this time instead of using the white, we're back to using the red. So I'm going to stitch 2 rows with 13 stitches on each row of my red yarn in single crochets. So I stitched those 2 rows of red for my red stripe. I'm not going to chain 1 because I'm going to bring my white back in. Snug everything down and chain 1. And so now what you're going to do is you're going to repeat what we've been doing. You're going to do 2 rows of white, 2 rows of red, and then 2 more rows of white, stitching them exactly the same. So you're just repeating what we've been doing. Every 2 rows, white, red, white. So I have stitched those additional rows, 2 more white, 2 more red, and 2 more white. You're going to have 6 stripes, 3 white ones and 3 red ones. And I realize there's more red and white stripes than this on the regular American flag. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut off our red and white because we're finished with those. Set those aside because we're done, and bring in our blue. And we bring it in exactly the same way we did with the red and white. All righty. Now we've chained our 1, we've snugged everything down. I do want you to see the side here where we carried our yarn up. But don't worry about that. When we put our gold trim on, we'll cover that up nicely. All right, so now what we're going to do with our blue is exactly what we did with our red and white. We're going to stitch 1 single crochet in each of those 13 single crochet stitches. So I've stitched those 13 single crochet stitches with my blue yarn. I'm going to chain 1 and turn and repeat 1 single crochet in each of those 13 single crochet stitches. So I've stitched 2 rows of the blue, 1 single crochet in each single crochet across, chain 1, and now we're going to repeat this for 6 more rows of blue. Single crochet all the way across, chain 1, turn, and then single crochet in each of the single crochets across, and we're going to repeat this for 6 more rows. And that will give us 8 rows of the blue for our mug rug or coaster, whichever you want to call it. So I've stitched those additional 6 rows, so I have 8 rows of my blue. Now, you can make more stripes if you want, or you can make your blue field bigger if you want. I just find this is a really good size for a mug rug. All right, so we're done with the blue. We're going to cut that. But what I like to do, I'm going to make this loop just a little bit bigger so it doesn't come undone. But I like at this point to go ahead and weave in my ends before I put my trim on. All right, so I'm just going to thread all those different ends with my needle and then just weave those in to the back side. That way I don't have to deal with them later. And I just go one way, the other way, and then back the way I came. And whoops. Clip that off, and we'll need to do that with all these ends except this one because we're going to bring in our gold and then we'll weave that in later. So I'm going to tidy this up, but again, you can do it when you're all done with your trim if you want to. So I've tidied up all my ends except for this one, of course, and I'm going to bring in my gold. And so what we're going to do is we're going to work down the side stitching single crochets evenly. So I'm going to make a chain 1, and then I'm just going to go right down the sides stitching single crochets. And what I try to do with a project that is a complete single crochet is I try to put 1 in the end of each of the rows. And that'll give you a nice even row of single crochets. So I'm evenly single crocheting down the side. Now, you will not have a set number of stitches down the side. You just want to try to make it as neat as possible. When you come to this area here where we've carried our yarns, make sure you go around those yarns and cover up those carries. And that'll help it stay secure as well. All right, now I'm getting to the first corner. And what we're going to do in the corner is we're going to stitch 3 single crochets. And that'll just help it move right around that corner nicely. And then on the bottom here, we have those chain stitches where we started, and you can just place one of those stitches in each of those chain stitches where we started. But see how that corner just moves around smoothly? All right, and so we'll continue this across. We'll put 3 single crochets in this corner. We'll evenly single crochet up the side, 3 single crochets in this corner, and then 1 single crochet in each stitch across. And we'll have a nice even row of gold single crochets around our coaster or mug rug. So I've stitched my trim all the way around, evenly single crocheting, putting 3 single crochets in each of the 4 corners. And now I'm just going to join to that first single crochet and cut my yarn. I'm going to go in the back and pull that loop to the back side so we have a nice looking join there. And then I'll need to weave these last 3 ends in, but this is the way that it looks. And now we're going to go ahead and add that star on here, and then I'll show you how to do all that fringe. So the size of the star is up to you. You can make your stitches longer if you want to. So you need to just thread some white yarn about 12 or 14 inches. And we're going to start with the X first. So I'm going to go in from the top We want to make sure we leave a little bit of yarn in the back for weaving in, and then we'll come down and make a straight stitch, and then we'll come across here. And I'm not measuring, you can measure, I'm just eyeballing. There's my X. Then I'll come up here. That's actually a plus. Now I'm going to make the X. And that's how you make the star. And of course, I made this one just a little bit bigger. All right, so now we'll go to the back and we're going to go underneath some of these blue stitches, but don't go through to the front so we can weave that in. All right, and I'll weave this in and these edges that I need to weave in as well, and then this one will be complete. So now we have one with fringe and one without fringe. Both of them are super cute and are perfect for putting your mug on, glass, whatever you're using it for, can of soda. Okay, and I like it without the fringe, but I also like it with the fringe. And so I'm going to show you how to add fringe to this one in a really simple way. Now we have 13 stitches across, so I like to add 15 pieces of fringe. So I just take my yarn, I'm using the gold, and I'll loosely wrap it around my hand 15 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've made 15 wraps. Here's where I started, so I want to make sure that that's where I cut. Okay, and it needs to be, you know, about 6 inches or so. We are going to trim it, so it's okay. You can see these are longer than what I have on this one. All right, so what you're going to do is I like to start in the center, grab my crochet hook, go through those 2 loops, grab it, and loop it through. And the reason I like to work from the inside out is I feel like it just lays better. I don't know why. You can start on one end and go to the other if you want to. It's totally up to you. Give it a good hard snug pull because you want that to stay. And we're just working all the way across. And then I add 1 extra one on the ends. I think it just fills it in a lot better. And let me show you what I mean. Let me work across here. Make sure both loops go through, or both strands I should say, not loops. And the length that you trim is up to you as well. If you like a long fringe, keep it long. If you like it short, you can trim it shorter. All right, so when I get to the end here on the side, I like to add 1 more just right in that stitch. And just make sure that it gets a nice even row of trim or fringe. Okay, so I'll finish this side and then I'll show you how to trim it. So I've added all my fringe, and what I do is I lay them out and I roll this up like this. All right, and this is going to help me get this nice and even. It won't be perfect, you'll still have to trim a little bit, but it'll help make it nice and even. And I just hold that with my thumb and trim. All right, and then I just roll it back out, and you can see it's not perfect. And then I'll trim those edges a little more. There we go. So now we have a mug rug with fringe on both sides, and it's super cute. Looks like a rug laying on the floor. And then we also have our other one that doesn't have any fringe. So you can make your mug rug with fringe or without. They're still super cute and fun to use, and also really easy to make because it's all stitched in single crochets. So have some fun with it. And remember, You don't have to make a flag out of it. You can stripe it with whatever colors that you have for whatever party or celebration that you're having.